How dare you show your face here after what you've done? You will never marry my son.
Tomiwa knelt by the roadside, her wrapper dusty, her hands trembling as she held the frail old woman who had collapsed beside the village market. People passed by without looking twice, whispering about that Lagos woman who had come home only to faint. But Tomiwa didn't care. She dragged the woman to a bench, fanned her with a piece of cardboard, and begged for water. The woman's breathing was weak, her lips were pale. Tomiwa could tell she hadn't eaten properly in days. "Please, Mama, just hold on," Tomiwa whispered, supporting her head gently. When the woman opened her eyes again, they softened at the sight of Tomiwa's face. "God will bless you, my daughter," she said faintly. "What's your name?" "Tomiwa, Ma." That small act of kindness marked the beginning of everything. Tomiwa took the old woman home to her small room, the one she shared with her younger brother, Sei. She prepared hot pap and fed her slowly, treating her as if she were her own mother. The next morning, Tomiwa learned that the woman's name was Mama Adura, mother of Daniel Adura, a young man from a wealthy family in the city who rarely visited the village. Mama Adura had come to see her late husband's land, but collapsed on her way home. Tomiwa had no idea who Daniel was, and she didn't care. She only wanted the old woman to recover. Days passed. Tomiwa bathed her, washed her clothes, and cleaned her small wounds. Neighbors started gossiping that Tomiwa was wasting her time, but she ignored them. Mama Adura began to call her my daughter, and insisted that when she returned to the city, she would take Tomiwa along to help her at home. At first, Tomiwa refused. She loved her village. But after her brother got into trouble with the local boys and needed money to leave for apprenticeship training, she agreed. That was how Tomiwa's life changed. The moment Tomiwa stepped out of the bus, the air smelled of exhaust, fried food, and noise. She clutched her small Ghana must-go bag tightly, trying not to look lost. Mama Adura held her hand, leading her toward a black SUV parked by the roadside. That was when Tomiwa saw him for the first time. Daniel. He was tall, neatly dressed in a white shirt and dark trousers. His wristwatch alone could pay her rent for a year. His eyes were kind, but there was a distance in them, the kind that came from privilege. "Mama, you should have called me," he said, helping his mother into the car. His tone softened when he saw Tomiwa. "You must be the young lady who helped my mother?" "Yes, sir." For a moment, their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them, respect, gratitude, and maybe curiosity. In the following weeks, Tomiwa settled into her new life in the Adura mansion. She cooked, cleaned, and helped Mama with her medications. The old woman adored her, often saying, "If only Daniel would marry someone like you." But Daniel was hardly ever home. When he came, he greeted Tomiwa politely and disappeared into his study. Still, she noticed the small things, how he smiled when he overheard her singing while cooking, how he lingered a little longer when she served his food. One evening, he found her in the kitchen washing plates. "You're always busy," he said. She smiled shyly. "I'm just doing what I can, sir." "Don't call me sir. Call me Daniel." From that day, something changed. Daniel started coming home earlier. Sometimes he joined her in the kitchen, asking about her village life. They laughed easily together. Tomiwa didn't even notice how close they had become until Mama Adura began to tease her gently. "Tomiwa," the old woman said one afternoon, "don't let my son's smile confuse you. He's a good boy, but our people—" She sighed. "They care too much about class." Tomiwa brushed it off. Love was the last thing on her mind. But one rainy evening, Daniel came home soaked and tired. She brought him a towel, and when he took it from her hand, His fingers brushed hers. The world slowed. "Thank you," he said softly. "You've done more for this family than anyone else." Tomiwa's chest tightened. She forced herself to look away. Weeks later, he asked her out for dinner. It wasn't a fancy date, just suya and malt on the balcony. But for Tomiwa, it was everything. He told her about his father's death, his mother's loneliness, and the pressure from his family to marry the daughter of a senator. "I don't want that life," he confessed. "I just want peace." Tomiwa looked at him, not knowing what to say. Daniel's family had always been strict, proud, and status-conscious. His mother's health was fragile, and his siblings were distant, more interested in appearances than love or care. When his father's will was read, it became clear. Daniel was expected to marry Ifeoma, the daughter of a prominent senator, to secure political connections. "I know you've been helping Mama," his sister said one evening during a family dinner, her voice sharp. "But you can't let her control your life. You have responsibilities." Daniel looked down at his plate, silent. He knew she was right, but the thought of leaving Tomiwa, the only person who had cared for his mother when no one else would, tore at him. Tomiwa sensed the tension. She tried to stay quiet, keeping herself in the background, doing her duties without complaint. She knew her place. I can't marry her," Daniel finally said one night after Mama Adura had gone to sleep. "Not if it means leaving you behind." Tomiwa's heart skipped a beat, but she kept her calm expression. "Daniel, you have your family to think about. I will not interfere," she said softly. Her words cut deeper than any argument. He wanted to rebel, to defy his family, but the weight of tradition and expectations was too heavy. A few weeks later, Tomiwa overheard a conversation she wasn't supposed to hear. Daniel's sister was calling, confirming arrangements. "Yes, the wedding will be in 3 months. Everything is set for Ifeoma. Daniel doesn't know how to refuse, but he will comply," the voice said. Tomiwa felt her chest tighten. The world spun. Daniel found her sitting on the balcony later that evening, staring at nothing. "Tomiwa," he began, but she shook her head. "It's your life, Daniel. Do what your family wants. I will accept it." He reached out to her, but she turned away. Her humility, her restraint, made him ache more than anger could. The day of the engagement came. Daniel was quiet, polite, and distant. Tomiwa stayed in the background, serving drinks, her eyes fixed on the floor. Nobody noticed the storm brewing in her heart. The quiet girl who had given so much, yet received so little. Daniel married Ifeoma 6 months later. The ceremony was grand, the city buzzing with gossip. Tomiwa was not invited. She had returned to her small apartment in Lagos, working at a local clinic, caring for patients with the same gentle hands she had once used for Mama Adura. She didn't cry. Not then. She kept herself busy. But at night, when the streets were empty and the city lights blurred through her window, she remembered Daniel, the man who had almost been hers. Months went by. She heard from mutual friends that Daniel's marriage was strained. Ifeoma was controlling, cruel even, and Mama Adura missed her dearly. But Tomiwa did not reach out. She had learned the quiet strength of letting go, and in that letting go, her life began to change. One evening, while treating a patient at the clinic, Tomiwa was approached by Mr. Olumide, a wealthy entrepreneur who had come for a routine checkup. He noticed the way she treated everyone with kindness and patience, the way she didn't look down on anyone, no matter their status. "Miss Tomiwa," he said after several visits, "your dedication is rare. I would like to support your work." Tomiwa was wary at first. She had been hurt by love once, and she did not trust easily. But Mr. Olumide was different. He respected her boundaries, treated her as an equal, and slowly her walls began to crumble. Months passed, and Tomiwa's clinic flourished. She had her own place, a circle of friends who valued her, and a life that no one could take away. The day came when Daniel called. His mother had passed away quietly a few weeks prior. He asked for Tomiwa, not out of love, but because he had realized her worth too late. I never appreciated you enough, he admitted one afternoon when they met briefly at a cafe. Tomiwa looked at him calmly. There was no bitterness, only quiet strength. You should have, she said softly. But life goes on. She had already found happiness, respect, and love in her new life. Her heart had healed, and she no longer needed validation from the man who had once controlled his feelings under his family's orders.